Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Burn Desire Show. I'm here today with Aundrea Sides, who is actually in the location that you can see, which I called her out for it, to be fair. And she's like, no, I'm in Mauritius. I'm like, oh, okay. Whoops. So welcome, thank you.
Oh, thank you for having me, Charles. We just met, so this is going to be fun. We're going to be chatting and chatting it up, and I feel like this is going to be. I have a feeling you're very good at revealing the truth, which I'm all about. I'm all about seeking the inner truth and knowing your truth, period, and being able to show the self unconditional love and love and practicing that on a daily basis. And if you don't know how to do it, then you ask yourself, what would a person do that loves themselves unconditionally or love on a daily basis until it becomes more natural to you? And life changes, different perspectives, new possibilities. Things come in from your most real and genuine self. So I'm excited as we move forward and we get to have our discussion.
Okay, well, we'll definitely circle back on that. That's pretty interesting. So as I
Yes.
say, and I say this at every beginning before we start recording, and I always say at the beginning of each recording, I always start with the Steve Jobs quote of "You can't connect dots going forwards, only backwards." So, like, if we go backwards, as far as I can see from the research that I did into yourself, I see you studied. Well, go a bit before university. When you were in school, I always like to understand, were you a studious child? Did things come naturally to you? Did certain subjects resonate more than others? Were you the naughty kid? Like, what sort of child were you?
I'm gonna what do you think that I was, Charles? You
I,
decide.
I
You tell
think
me what you think.
based on the few minutes we've talked, I feel like you were the kid in the class that like wouldn't shut up, and the teacher was like I think you did the work, and I think you did it pretty well. But I feel like you probably distracted others in the process who probably couldn't do it as well as you could. That's my guess.
Oh, I love it. You are just knowing people, oh my goodness, already intuitive. I am loving this. Yes. So I always had really interesting teach. I always love to tell this story. I don't tell it very often, but so I had this third grade teacher who could not get me to shut up in the classroom. I always had all these ideas and I wanted to share them. And I didn't understand why we had to regurgitate all this information and learn about this. And I could not put together how this was going to help me in my life. I wanted to play. I wanted
How
to
old is
create. I
third
wanted
grade for people who aren't from the
third
States? How old is that age
third
wise?
grade. You know what? Let me see. I think it's is it nine? Nine?
Yeah. All right, just a rough guess. Okay, okay,
Yeah, I think about nine, eight, nine, 10, depending.
okay.
So yeah, and so the teacher would say, okay, Andrea, all right, you know what you're going to do? You're going to put together and you're going to go over here and here's some crafts and here's stuff to put together. And then what I want you to do is every quarter, she would have me explain what I had learned and have all the kids have certain roles in my play that I would have every quarter. And I would bring the kids up, and this is how I would learn by listening to be able to listen to them, what they learned. And then I was like directing them, and I would put on a play. And then when she couldn't get me to shut up because I didn't, if I wasn't able to take tests or I was being disruptive, she was brilliant. She had me come, and she would probably get in trouble nowadays for this, Charles, but she would have me say, you know what, my back hurts. Can you rub my neck? Can you rub my back?
Yeah, I think you would get in trouble for that nowadays. Yeah, I think you would.
And yeah, and I did, and I would, and she'd be like, "Oh my gosh!" And I was always very physical, like I was always the fastest runner. I was always very active, and things like that. So, and later on in life, I have a business now that's Vitality Unleashed, and it's called Vitality Unleashed Live, and it gets people to be able to increase their vitality and their life force so that they can live life and feel good. We
So
want
I'm
to
just
feel good.
thinking, like,
Mhm.
home life wise, do you have siblings?
Yeah, I did.
And they were like similar in the kind of way they were, or you were kind of like a
Mm,
little
it-
different?
Um, yeah, they were similar. I had one brother, and he was pretty active too, but I would definitely had really conservative. I was always pushing, my parents and very conservative parents. So it was a challenge for them for sure.
So you go through school, and as you got older, was it just the more of the same, or did you kind of toe the line a bit more, as it were?
Toe the line.
In respects of like when you got into like more senior school, were you still the same kind of character, or did you conform more at that point in your life? Just go, right, I'll just
Mm-mm.
be more.
I tried, but my interior would not let me. I couldn't do it. I tried, everybody tried everything, and I came in an extremely strong-willed and strong spirit. There's no question about it. I challenged every curriculum, every rule, and I try, and they could see that I was making an effort, but it just was not a match to who I was. I came in to change things
I understand.
right from the very beginning. Yeah.
So, were there any particular like subjects you preferred more than others? Any things that you did enjoy about those times, or was it there was just too much conformity that it just was like painful for you?
I like science a lot, but I really liked interacting with people. I liked interacting, and I knew that I had a knack to bring out the best in the creative in people, to play, to play and to have more fun. I couldn't stand when things got too serious. Like there's a good time to but you can, I knew that there was a way to focus and still have fun and
Right.
keep things light and to move things forward. Yeah. Yep.
Whereas in the schooling you had, it's serious. Like you got to do your homework, you got to do this, that, and the other, and no talking, and you can't have fun with it. And that was what frustrated you. That like they were showing you
Yeah, it's not, it
the thing.
wasn't the best way to learn for me. Yeah, it was very for me it was tactile. And then of course they try to repress and repress and repress and tell you that you're wrong and that you're not this, and if you don't conform that there's something wrong with you and all these other things,
Hmm.
and try to diagnose you with stuff. And it was just that I was not in a safe and supportive environment for the best of me to come out. And so that's why I'm doing what I'm doing now.
What's interesting though to me is that I think a lot of people would probably identify with what you're saying in as far as school and the way it's set up is not um it doesn't pave the way for the best out of a lot of people, but they somehow like subdue all the energy that they have, the creative energy, whatever. Whereas with yourself, it seems like, in fact, the opposite happened, where you're like, well, I'm just going to keep doing this. That I think is unusual. I think a lot of people just get to a point where like, all right, like I'm just going to throw the towel in on the self that the way that I am, just because it's just so painful the other way. But
you Charles, you know what's so funny? So I tried, you might be able to, there's a plane going overhead. Hold on.
no.
I tried. I tried, and literally physically my body rejected it. I don't know how to, like, I would go into instant sadness,
Mm,
instant depression. I
mm,
would go into like, okay, I wanted to do this and this and that. And then I would, like, I think the first time that I ever, when I was like 13, 12 or 13, I partied and I got caught for it. And my parents tried to throw me in rehab the next day because I was like, oh my gosh, I'm out. Like things like that used to happen to me.
oh,
There was just no, like, yeah, I can't, there's no question now, I know. And I've cleared a lot of the things. So what happens is, as you clear and you understand um the way you come in your life when you're young, I really believe that we're empowered in every way and supported to be who we are, and to be support and keep going, and to change the world, and to change it for positive, and to have our own genuine expression in the world. And it doesn't need to be validated. It becomes validated when you live it and you love it and
mhm.
you are really it, right, as you're coming forward. But it's really, really important for people to know that when they change their inner world and they make time, I'm talking 5-7% of the day, paying attention to their inner world, creating their inner world, getting that enthusiasm, asking themselves question about who they really are, asking for the truth of who they are, asking for the clarity of who they are and finding love within themselves, this whole new world, your world starts becoming really vast and starts becoming more beautiful than the one outside of it. And then we start changing the world because we are giving our life force energy and our life, our vitality into the world versus just regurgitating everything that exists. And
Mm.
this clarity is what I'm here to bring into the world, because like you were saying, everything has a curriculum and you're regurgitating things and just literally vomiting out carbon copies of things over and over again. And you can put a little bit of your this to it, but it's still very conforming. It's a way that I think that maybe originally that it came in to get us to collaborate or
Mm.
to create together, but
Mm.
now it's turned into something completely different. And I really believe that's why we have so many sustainability problems and things like that, is because we're just regurgitating all the information that's around us. So we're using up all of our resources, we're doing all of these things, and instead of adding our new ideas, being the change in the world. And that's what happens when you develop those interior things.
So going back to the sciences, that would kind of lead on to going into university. But before that,
Mm-hmm.
I just wonder, was that a parental pressure to go to university, or you thought it was the right path, or just based on what
Yeah.
you're saying in respect of not liking school or educational conformity, but still going to university, was that just, or college you would call it, was that just something you thought you had to do, or what made you do that?
Um, to be honest, I don't really remember.
Okay.
I don't remember a lot of it, to be completely honest. I remember that I was trying to find something that I could do that fit the way that I felt and the way that I was incredibly empathic. From a very young age, I could feel other people's feelings. When I was young, I could listen really, really well as I talked a lot, but I really made people feel seen, and I loved. I loved people. I loved hearing their stories. I felt their sadness. And what happened is somewhere along the line, this is different than education. So to me, education, talking about education is quite boring, to be
Mm.
completely honest with you. It's
Mm.
just boring. So my emotional and spiritual journey started
Yeah.
very, very early on. And that's what helped me elevate and not just survive, but I survived, but thrived as I went forward. So what happened is, emotionally and spiritually, what happened is I integrated all these people's problems, emotions. I didn't know where I began and where they ended anymore. And what happened is I was trying to work out all the things that were going on in people's lives and worlds through myself. And that was a lot of hard work, a lot of hard work. I took things personally. I thought that I was the problem of certain people and things. I would go to parties and feel all the fun stuff, but I would feel all the drama and all that other stuff. And it wasn't until I started developing and paying attention to what I wanted and needed, and that I really had something to offer myself and people in the world as I went forward, that I started separating that, and I could see people in their own life, in their own bubble. And that's when I started really becoming intuitive and being able to see people and feel people and help people, because I could see things from a very compassionate place, from a place of love, because I wanted the highest good for the collective of my interactions with people. So what I started learning to do before, for me, it wasn't about intellectual, wasn't, it was about to live and elevate the emotions and not become stuck in my emotions by, hiding, lashing out, defensive. Sometimes we might even try to mask feelings. I used to see people mask feelings, and I could feel something completely different from them, and they're looking at somebody that's seeing them completely and not understanding what it is that is happening, and be able to articulate that and start creating a container and a safety for people to express their real feelings so that they can be seen and heard, that they can navigate that inward and feel that inside of themselves, so they can say, yeah, that's right, that is the clarity. I'm not telling people what they should feel and think. I'm just seeing them.
So can you
I'm feeling them.
do you have
Yeah.
like an example of where you met somebody or some interaction and they were giving you a vibe or an energy or what have you of one thing, but they were displaying to the like rest of the world, as it were, like a mask of something else, and then how like you would like create
Sure.
that bridge between the two, because I think that's
I do
quite.
it. Yeah, I do it every day. I do it every day, multiple when I go outside and I do stuff. So what happens is when you create your interior, I'm going to give a total answer. It's not just one, but it's my
Yeah.
life. It's so, and I want it to benefit the collective and your listeners here.
Hmm.
So what happens is when you start developing and getting clear about who you are on the inside,
Hmm.
and you start getting clear about where you start and where other people's begin.
Hmm.
And through Vitality Unleashed, we help people do that. That what happens is that you develop an intuition, you develop things that you just know about people, which I know that you already have that sense somewhat, Charles.
Hmm.
But you do, and you become neutral. You become in a neutral position. Now, what most people do is they act a little bit savage, meaning that they are not able to control their negative emotions or temper when somebody's doing something in front of you, or it might offend you because a person might be a victim or self-righteous, or they might be an inner critic with self-judgment, so they judge other people, right? So all these things are going on in the world with these lower emotions. When you
Hmm.
develop these interior things, you learn to master your emotions. So when you're at this mastery of emotions, you see what this person really wants. You feel and you see their essence, their of who they really are,
Hmm.
and you hold their beauty. You see, you pick out. I literally pick out and can see in in my mind's eye and in my intuition who this person really is, like what their attributes, what their gifts are. This is one of my gifts. And I hold it there. And I hope when I'm talking to them and I listen to what they need and everything, but I hold the vibration. I hold a different frequency. I hold a place of love. It doesn't mean I'm ignoring them, but I see what they really want. I don't go down below and keep on digging into, I don't like, okay, all right, the gossip or the self-righteous. And a lot of times I don't even do this. So when you start emitting a more life-giving frequency, you bring that out in others. Sometimes they can't even come up to you with all
For
that
sure.
stuff.
For sure.
Or you start bringing out the better things in people. So this happens to me every day. I know that's not exactly the answer that you want, but I can go at the grocery store, and the grocery store I'll go through today. I was going through line and the lady was so like, oh my God, you could tell she was probably there. She was there, I don't know, probably for 8 hours that day.
The
And
worker,
I said,
the lady, the person.
yeah,
Yeah.
I, yeah, and I was with my kids and I go and I said, hi, Sandra, because I know her from before. And I said, how you doing? She just sees me and she goes, Aundrea, and she lights up and she smiles. And I said, having a hard day, huh? Having a little bit. Are you almost off? She's like, yeah. And I said, it's really, it's bright outside. It feels really good. There's like a mist. And then the kids and my son goes around and like gives her a little bit of a hug, right? And acknowledges who she is, and that I acknowledged that she was down, but there was brighter, and that we got to interact. And so
Mm-hmm.
these things that I'm always seeing, and I don't know, I see somebody and I was like this when I was a child, and it wasn't because that I wasn't loved and it wasn't all this other stuff. It was just a natural way. I think that we all are a lot of times when we're kids, until we get indoctrinated and we get, can't do that. Don't be so happy. Hush, be quiet. So these are things every day, and in my personal relationships and my love relationships, I'm always learning from each person through the challenges that I have with other people, and their own problems and own demons and things. And it causes me to look at myself and decide, where can I grow in this area, or how can I look at this in a more um, so I always ask, what is the most significant benefit, realization, right? Or the outcome for everyone. Hold on just a second. For everyone that is involved in this. And when we start doing that, we start listening to our heart more than our mind. And then our heart becomes like this commanding center. And then we can direct the mind with the heart into an action, an inspired action that is more neutral, that comes from a place of a more masterful emotion, or a love or kindness or wanting, whatever. I mean, it's not always, rainbows, and people don't, a lot of times people don't want to hear all of that, but and it's usually the people that don't want to work on their emotions and their emotional mastery. But what happens is, when you start doing this, things start to work more in harmony, and the better it gets, the better that it gets, and then the better that it gets. So yeah.
My question is,
Hmm.
and the reason I go down the lineage of kind of your life stories, because I appreciate that you, when you're younger, you kind of sense that you're more intuitive than others, and through schooling and whatnot. What I'm trying to figure out for the benefit of the audience is, at which point did you not necessarily just realize, but did you actually put into practice the fact that you could use the skill set that you naturally have as a occupation, effectively, as something that you could
Hmm.
actually fully commit to? Because whether people are intuitive or not, I think a lot of the time what I seem to find is people don't follow the thing that they really enjoy doing. I think, listen, there's a million of people who have different views on this, but one of them is, what do you enjoy, what comes natural, easiest to you, what do you enjoy the most? And there's obviously that ikigai, I think the pronunciation is, where you've got different Venn diagrams and whatnot. And what I find with people that I normally interview here, but not always, but quite often, is they find that pretty early on. And I think somewhere everybody does have that, but they get so kind of chained into the system that it kind of just, they believe people like yourself, maybe people like me, are like an exception only. And you're so lucky that you can do something you actually enjoy doing. So I think
Well, that's part of the system, isn't it?
of
That's
course it
part,
is.
that very thinking is part of the system.
Of course
If
it is. I'm just
Mhm.
trying to
Mhm.
challenge people's view on that. And that's why I know it might be boring for you, but the reason I wanted to go through the lineage is to go, like, at what point in time do you go from, I'm studying metaphysical science, which I don't even know what that even is, I'll be honest. How do you get from there to a position where, like, every day you're doing, it would seem, something that you really enjoy doing and adding some value to the world?
I just showed up as it was me. It was just who I was. I went inside, and what I had to do was I had to get clear. So there's five things. This is the prop. So this is the thing. Five things for people to transmute that I've seen in all my 15 years one-on-ones, and
Mhm.
then before and everything. People like, when you ask, who am I? First, you have to discover that is before you start diving in and being able to, and then you start seeing the synchronicities of, like, how the best traits that you might have had when
let's
they're
let's
correlating.
just go back on that, like, who I am, like,
Mhm.
what does that mean? Because, like, again, these things, like, to a lot of people, like, sounds great. I mean, I'm a guy, I'm this age, I'm like, but what are you referring to? You're referring to, what do you love doing? What do you spend your spare time doing? Is that the sort of thing you're asking
Everything.
yourself?
Like, if if you don't know who you are in the world, then your directions, or your energy, is in so many different directions and being pulled in so many different directions for the benefit of others, that you're literally being used for other people's institutions, or whether it be business or your family or whatever.
Mm.
But if you find worth in that and you find joy in that, that's probably a synchronicity or something that you have within. To be able to explain, it's so funny that we're sitting here and that I have to explain to people, like, who you, like, how, like, it sounds crazy to me. Like, you have to like so one of the modules that I have is like, who am I? And what we have to do is we have to take those things that we've been indoctrinated by, or
Yep.
all the things that tell us that we can't be who we are, like the inner critic and self-judgment, being disloyalty to yourself and your self-identity. Savage, we talked about that before, you know, not being able to control your negative emotions and anger. Self-righteousness, where we feel like we're better than other people. Victim consciousness, huge right now. Victim conscious, all these things distract you from who you really are.
Mm-hmm.
So if all these things and all these problems, and we're already whole, who am I? Your love, your truth, your unconditional love, your whole, your vitality. You are, you know, people, you know, so one of the things that happens is when you start, I'm so passionate about this, right? So when you start being guided interiorly, we won't even call it intuition because that might be a trigger for some people. I don't know. But
Okay.
when you start doing this, you start learning about your own wisdom that you have. How did all this stuff, how did Tesla, how did all these things happen in the world and get created? Somebody thought of them and had to go inside and think of it. They used their heart, they used their brain, they used their inspiration, right? They had to do something in order to create it. We have to be we're creators of our experience, right? So you start remembering when you practice these things, and you start transmuting the victim consciousness by just being aware of when you're being the victim and saying, whoa, oh my gosh, whoa, oh my gosh, I'm, you know, whatever, moment by moment. Sometimes it takes people to come back to themselves, moment by moment. You start remembering who you are without any doubt, Charles. You are excited about life. You're not asking who I am anymore. You are excited about your interior world, your evolution. You celebrate yourself and the people that are around you. You have more fun. Being of service becomes natural. Being of
Yeah, I
service
like
and
that.
of the world is very natural, right? You are more confident. You are stable. You're fearless, and you're committed to create from your genuinity because it gives you energy, it gives you vitality, things are clear, and you're not just regurgitating false belief systems that are not yours.
Mhm.
Now, I'm not saying that all things are false belief. We can dovetail into things that already exist. That's what we're supposed to. We can dovetail and find our niche, find our passion, find what, you know, these things are.
Mm.
So the stableness comes in that is fearless. It's a stability and a fearlessness that is to commit and to create from your authenticity,
Do
from
you,
your genuine thing.
I think you already answered the question, but do you
Yeah,
think that a lot of people that are, to for want of a better phrase, they are doing the 9 to 5, they've gone to college, university, they've got their degree, they've started in a graduate job, they're going up the ladder and whatever else. Do you think that's okay for some people? Like for some people, that's just for them, that is, to use your phrase, their authentic self. That is, or do you believe that
sure.
really
No,
that's just a
sure.
nonsense thing that we're just told is ourselves, and then we just become,
No, because
you feed your own kind of bullshit, for want of a better phrase.
yeah, no. That's a great question. I love that question, Charles, because I have friends, and I have two particular friends, and that are make so what happens is there's two different answers to this question. The first one is some people choose to be in those things because they want to change things. When you start becoming really clear, those are the change makers. Those are the people that come in with the clarity and know who they are, and that you have this certain genius and brilliance that you're able to access within, that can create possibilities to any solution, even within a structure.
So like
And then it
like
starts breaking it
an
apart.
entrepreneur, like would be the term people use.
No, it doesn't even have to be an entrepreneur. It
No,
can
no, no.
be
An entrepreneur, like as in someone within a corporate that uses some flair to develop it forwards. Is that what you're
their
referring
authentic,
to?
their
Yes.
flair would be
Yes.
themselves.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
and their clarity and their purpose. And then, so we all have this truth barometer inside of us. When
Mhm.
somebody's telling us the truth from themselves that inspires us or whatever, so they're bringing this, and maybe that they knew that they wanted to do. They said, "Oh my gosh, look at this corporate and look at all the stuff they're doing, but look, they're not really giving to anything. They're just regurgitating and they're using resources. How about we create something? You want to be the change in the world that you want to see, right?"
See.
So a lot of times people go through these things in order to be able to go through the corporate struggle, or they do these things and so that they have the inspiration and the ideas to be the movers and shakers. And it can be with a single brick. It doesn't have to be the whole pile. It doesn't have to be the whole building, but
Mm.
there's something that is very contagious about this. It's contagious because and it's coming and it's happening more and more and more, because we find that true empowerment and the power that we have within is from this. It's not with control and trying to move all these parts in our life. That's exhausting. When
Yep.
you start developing this stuff inside, your whole life starts to become more fluid. You have synchronicities, you meet the right people, you have the cooperative different components in your life that start coming in, and you bring out, just like I said before, it's a symptom. You start bringing out the best in other people. You challenge them to be able to show up in their most in collaboration, being who they really are and bringing out the gifts that they have or want to develop.
Yes. No, that's it's pretty interesting. Yeah, I think many years ago I had the kind of thought process that
Mhm.
why surely everybody wants to start their own business. Surely nobody wants to work for the people and all the rest of it. And I think as you get older and you see different things, I think there are people that are better suited to that world. And there's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. Like there's different horses for courses or whatever you want to call it. But as I say, I think when you're younger, and you've got a mindset like mine, you're like, but why would you work in someone else's like confined rules, whatever else? But then I also then think to myself, the way in which my brain is pretty much on all day for a lot of people, it would be horrendous. Like, it would be absolutely horrendous to not be able to like switch off from like your professional and personal being so merged together. So I do understand that. And people close to me are in completely different walks of lives and that, and it is interesting to see they carve out something that works for them, which is great. I think that is, I think we're in a point of time now where there is almost this concept that it's kind of it's there's actually two things juxtaposed. I think there's just like everyone's supposed to be an individual and do their own thing, but at the same time there's like this blueprint to having this perfect life, and like you can't have both at the same time, but we do. And I think that's where a big problem lies.
You can, yeah.
Particularly in the UK, a big thing is, well, you've got to get on the property ladder as fast as possible, because if you got on the property ladder and you got a mortgage, like, oh, you're winning at life, and then you got to have kids by this point and all the rest of it. And but we're juxtaposing that against like, but you want to be really individual and like, but you're all wearing the same brand new clothes and you're all wearing, which is fine if you want to do that. So like, it's super interesting to see how I think those pillars are slowly being eroded. And we're talking to a
Yep.
friend of mine the other day about this, for example, longer term, just on the finance front. It used to be obviously a thing, again, big thing here, I'm sure as well in the States, of saving for a nest egg. That was what people did. They worked super hard and got to 60, 70 or what have you. And if they were lucky, they had some money to do things with. Now, I
Mhm.
think people are looking at people of that age and going, why would you wait until you're 60 and 70 to enjoy something? It's absolutely insane.
Yeah. Yes. There's, even in Mauritius here, there's a lot of people from the different culture. I think Dubai and India, and there's a lot of different than the States and what I grew up in and everything and what I was used to. And they say if you're working 50% of your time even, and that you're only enjoying your time 50%, like what's the point? Like what's the point? You got to be able, like, hello, your life, work, and most people are what, 60, 70, 80, 90% of their time goes to work, and then 10.
Yes.
That's just okay. We got to come up. So if there's not more of a, and if you're enjoying it, and that's your thing, there's nothing wrong with that. I think that's amazing. But if you're not, and you're not doing anything about it, or coming possibilities, you're so inundated within the system, and this, you're literally, life force is being, the reason that people come home at night because they don't have any energy and they don't have anything, is because their life force and who they are is being sucked by
Yeah.
something else and someone else for the benefit,
Yes.
instead of some of that. And to take, so there's something very simple, Charles, I want to go, because I know that these are just concept, and but there's something that changed my life. And there was a lady named Christy Marie Sheldon. She was amazing, and she helped me understand and put all of my intuitive and understand a lot about what I was feeling emotionally, and the seclusion that I experienced when I was young, and how I was able to see so deeply into people, and put all of this together. And she said, Aundrea, so what happens is, the further in you go, the more present, the further out you see, the more deep you go in and you see other people. So the further, and you start to see the things that are really happening in the world, and which brings you in even more to be stable. And I see women doing this, and I don't know if I got it from her. I think that there's a couple institutes that do this, but something that somebody just clicks on their timer one time a week. I mean, I'm sorry, one time an hour, even if they're at work.
Mm.
And they don't have to get into it or whatever. So how do I do that if I'm working 9 to 5 and I'm sucking, well, this scares the crap out of me. I don't want to see all this, and I don't want to do this. I just got to keep my head down. I can't. So on the hour, every hour, connecting to your body, your heart, imagining a light goes on. It's the sun. You connect to the sunshine in your heart. You bring this illumination, and you bring warmth into your chest. You connect all the way up. You have a soul star or whatever you want to. You don't have to do it this way. It doesn't have to sound woo woo. It can be creative. Don't be so rigid, people. Think of it like you are with a child, and that lightheartedness. Do something that works for you, that's light. You connect to this light. You go all the way up. You connect to the stars. Oh, all the wonderment and the mystery and the fun and the relaxation when you're looking, whatever. And then you connect with our planet. The planet, here's the truth, people, whether you're intellectual or you're intuitive, or that you want to, you are creating a container to connect to yourself. So you go down and you connect to the earth. You feel your feet on the ground. You imagine Mother Earth and her size, and you go all the way down to the middle part of the earth. And here's the truth. The earth supplies us all of our food. If you have to do it this way, she shelters us. Everything that we get is from our planet. That's why we're alive, right? So even if you connect to that conceptual, or, that idea, and that we have this all within, and that we're connecting with the power of that, but we're connecting with our heart, and we're connecting with this in the light and illuminating. You can illuminate the head. Say, I want to turn my brain on. I want to turn the lights on so that I can focus more clearly. I want to turn the lights on behind my ears so that I can hear the truth. I want to turn the lights on behind my eyes so I can see my truth. Because when we talk to ourselves and we ask for things inside of ourselves, guess what? We get answers. Don't, when we, in the exterior world, when we ask questions and things, don't we look for answers and we get them? Why wouldn't we get those same answers inside of ourselves? So instead of looking for the answers without us, and we start going within and asking ourselves and using this brain power to go in, it's amazing what will be turned on. And so this illumination, and then this illumination is in your field, or you're 10 feet, 20 feet, 30 feet. It's in your workplace. It's in the building. It's in your city. You start, instead of slunching around this and walking around with people, and because you're scared to be seen and stuff, pretty soon you're sitting up straight and you're illuminating, and you want to connect with things. You want to have interactions. You want to see what's going on in life, and you're seeing it from yourself instead of what already exists and how you're going to fit in. So you do this once in the hour, and you can do it like, oh, a lightning bolt just hit me. Boom. The light just went in, and boom, I'm illuminated. I'm turned on. Thank you. Thank you, myself, whoever your name is. Thank you, spirit. Thank you, whatever. And then you set your alarm for the next hour or whatever. And it's just even that little bit, Charles, and people can figure out their own way to do this.
Yep.
It changes your life in ways. And I challenge people to try it.
So here's an interesting one, because this is what I find with these conversations. You never quite know, or I never know where they're going to go. I have notes and things and different kind of ideas, and we'll see what happens. And I was
Mhm.
looking at some of the ways in which you describe what you do, and you've come and mentioned quite a lot of that. The intuitive life architect piece, the genuine authentic self piece, very much so. Something which we
Mhm.
haven't touched upon is the piece that I think this is the most divisive, I would say, where you've got some people that are really into this. And I was talking about my personal assistant before because of you being in Mauritius, and she has origins from there. And she's really into this world. And I personally probably am
Your
not.
assistant? Did you say your assistant though?
Yeah,
That was
personal assistant.
jumbled.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
my personal assistant.
Mm-hmm.
So back to the Mauritian thing, because that's
Mm-hmm.
where you are now. She has origins there, and she's into this side of the world, and I'm not. And what I mean by that is the more of the psychic mastery, clairvoyance side of things. So can you delve into that to somebody who doesn't necessarily understand what that is? And probably a lot of people are just imagining what they've seen on maybe TV or something as to what that maybe is.
Mm-hmm.
How
So
do you
Steve
do it?
Jobs, Nick Tesla, Jesus Christ, all these other people have developed their stuff within inside themselves. And the more that you develop the stuff inside, it goes with as a side effect.
What do you mean by that?
So the more that you ask questions interiorly and you start developing your world inside,
Yeah.
when I said that before, the more you go inside, that you're present, that you really are seeing that you're connected to everything that exists and how that you start understanding because you're paying attention to yourself. When you pay attention to yourself, you have the ability to be able to change the world. And when you have the ability to change your world, you can see things. You can't change the world without being able to see how to do it or what to change, and having that clarity. The clarity is within. The best people that everybody looks up to, or the people that are, that's how the 1%ers do it. How do you think there's 1% of the people on earth that get all the money and do all? You think that they don't know how to do this kind of stuff? You don't know how they use it for other stuff sometimes. But the deeper that you go within, the more you pay attention to yourself and the way that you interact within the world. And you can do this lightly. It doesn't, everybody, I don't know why everybody thinks it's all so serious. You can do it with fun. That's what I think the part is, Charles, because everybody likes to have fun. Everybody likes to have a light heart. Everybody likes to laugh. Like, one of the best ways to go within is to laugh. We used to have like stupid things like laughing seminars because people were so serious or so intellectually in that we had to shake them up, and there was no, we had to physically get their body moving and remember how to be light and do these things so that they could feel those sensations within their body, and then we would go in deeper there. We would come up with different solutions that way. So the deeper that it goes, the more that these things, and everybody has their own abilities. It doesn't have to look like just intuition. You might be able, all of a sudden, be able to read a book in 5 minutes. You know how they're like on the Matrix. This is, I literally have this with people, like in like the Matrix, where you're able to be so clear that you download stuff.
Yeah.
That you're able, that people have this capacity to be able to do these things that they're interested in, and that they want the gifts of something when you start tapping into the inner clarity, because all the noise has stopped. I'll give you an example. I went to, we'll just say the forest. I went to a forest and I stayed there for quite a few years, and I ate certain things. I took all the amenities out of my daily routine, and I focused on myself, and I focused on what was around me in
A
my
few
immediate. I
years this was.
Yes, and
Wow.
I didn't exchange. I was not allowed, because I was watched over by a tribe when I was in this forest, and this is real. This, I really did this because I needed to know how to manage my gifts, my empathy. I knew that I had a calling, but I needed to really focus in the world. I needed to focus so much on my interior and be clear, and all my senses turned on. So all the media, I didn't have a phone for a couple years. I brushed my teeth with lemon. I had the most simple things. I didn't even have electricity. And talk about everything turned. Now this is to the extreme.
Yeah.
But I'm telling, so everything turned on. And talk about clarity and the interaction and being able to see the plants and the animals and people in a different way, and the
Mm.
way that I interacted and went into the city sometimes, and when I was doing this, and and the way that people either saw me or didn't see me at all, because I was on such a different frequency. I was
That
on
makes.
such a different. Yes. So this is so I'm doing this as an example, as extreme. I'm not telling people have to do this. This is
Out of
my
curiosity,
life.
when you went down, this is what I'm
Hmm.
interested in. You
Hmm.
personally, what age did you go down this road of extreme soul searching, for want of a better phrase?
It was always there, but I started meeting people when I was about 12, 13, 17, 22. I literally met indigenous leaders all over the world. So like leaders that were doing change making. So I met people from the Navajo Nation, from Greenland, from Shipibo, from Shuar, and I didn't know why I was doing this. I didn't know what was happening or why, but they were all helping me. Like imagine you have all your collaborators at the table that are
Mm,
helping you with this wisdom and this change that's happening, and that I needed to catch up with everything that I was feeling and be around these people. So some people will meet, the president of their company, and then they'll meet this person and a really cool
sure.
it's all different that who's at that person's table,
Did you
right?
did you have this sense that um you, because you talk about personally, this is rather, if I'm just paraphrasing, that
Hmm.
you knew this intuition, but you were taking a lot of the emotion from people and would processing it internally yourself rather than like.
Yes.
And so was this kind of this couple of years, was it kind of a cleansing to go, right, how do I use the gift without it like consuming me? Was a bit of that?
Yes, exactly. So I didn't know that it was consuming me. It was what I look back, and even when you're asking it now, was strengthening me.
Okay. That's an interesting way of looking at it.
Yeah, it was really strange. Like I went being able to hold that many emotions, and personally, like trying to transmute all that stuff and everything else is
Did you feel
it
an
the
immense amount of relief when you went off the grid, as it were, for a period of time? Like, what was the difference between like,
I did. Most people are like, "What are you doing?" And I'm doing this for a retreat, or before it started getting
yeah,
popular, where people were doing this all the time. I did it before, but now that you asked, Charles, yes, it was like I was like one of the only ones that was like, "Yes, I can focus."
it's super interesting. It's super interesting. So like,
Yeah.
what what precipitated you saying, right, I'm now ready to go back into whatever the
I
existence?
ran out of money.
Really? That simple?
Yeah. I wanted to stay longer, and there was one other person that was with me, and he was like ready to go, and he was in a separate bed, separate area, separate
Right.
everything, and he was ready to go. And most people, like even the family members of the tribe, they didn't want to be doing this, but I wanted to keep on going, and Spirit was like, nope, you're out of money, you got to go out in the world.
Right.
And
So
you got
interesting
to
enough,
do
it was
this.
even in a bizarre sense, as off the grid as it was, like you still needed money to keep yourself go. Why
Yeah.
continue to be there? Or something? Is that why?
Well, no, I probably didn't. I had a choice, actually. I had a choice to integrate with this tribe and integrate with their way of living and do what they
Okay.
wanted. And they asked me to be part of it, and I said that's not. And a part of me really wanted to,
Right.
but I had grown up. I had grown up as white. I grew up in the Western world, so I knew that I needed to do something. I didn't need to be somebody that I was not.
That's
They just
interesting.
held. They helped me remember. They helped me. They helped me upon my path and what I'm doing now.
So
They're
you,
so gracious.
when
Mhm.
you ran out of money or whatever the reason was that you decided to come back,
Ran out of money.
you
Yep.
come back, and then like what was it like? Had you not seen friends and family for a long period of time, or had you been
Yes.
now over this period?
Yeah, this is great. I haven't thought about this in a long time, Charles. So anyways, but I've done retreats, but I came back to my family's house, and I remember coming back to my mom's house, and I was there, and I said, "Mom, I got to get a job." And I was with friends, and all my friends, like a bunch of my friends at the time, they received healing, they received clarity. All of a sudden, all these people's lives that were in my lives before all really started to elevate, and they started to move. And it was like everything everything that I had learned, I started giving to other people, like all the different things. I don't know how to put that except for just that.
Okay.
And what I went back to go see my family, and they couldn't. I remember walking in my mom's house, and I would be sitting there, and she said, "We have to go to the. We got to go to the counselor." She probably would hate it. I don't. We got to go to the counselor. Just can't do this. I can't do this. And I would just come up with things so clearly that I would tell her things like about her life and like that she had been struggling for 20 years. And I had the answer. And why don't you do that? And then all of her shadows would be like, boom, 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 boom. Like right
Yeah.
here, that I didn't realize that that was a lot for people. Right. I
Yeah.
didn't, since then, I've learned a little bit more about
Tact.
intuitive integrity. Right. Yeah. But I didn't know this is just what I had done. And so I was showing up everywhere. And then my mom said, we're going to the counselor. And so I went to the counselor and I sat there and I'm sitting in the room and I'm going like this. And my mom is literally telling the counselor, she is everywhere. She's in my house. I can't be in my house. Her energy is so big. I don't even know what to do. And I can't, this is what she was saying to the counselor.
Okay.
And then after that, I just said, Mom, I said, I'm sorry. I need to learn how to integrate this more. I need to learn how to come back into society and respect. So I learned a whole lot through
Wow.
this
Interesting.
about people's boundaries, about going too far ahead of people where they can't see. So a lot of times when people work with psychics or intuitives, they're really afraid that people are going to see something and reveal something that's going to hurt and it's going to be too fast because we want to learn stuff on our own. Even when we go to healers, sometimes they'll heal us or they'll do things, but they'll reveal things to us and it hurts. It might be a little bit more bumpy sometimes than if we were to be led. So there is a certain finesse and an integrity when you come to this point and to this frequency that I am at and that I've learned to do within my life, where you learn to really respect where another person is. You feel it out and that you can help them take little baby steps. It is just as important.
It's interesting.
It's
I,
just as
one
important.
of my very good friends is I think he's just passed his exams, but effectively a therapist now. And I was asking him a question not too dissimilar in as far as now you have the therapist hat, as it were, and in your world, the intuitive hat. It must be,
It's a therapist hat too,
yeah, it must
without
be,
all the degrees.
yeah, it must then be challenging to when you're talking in a personal capacity to partners, children, friends, family, to not go and do the therapy thing, right?
Oh, I did. I lost everybody, Charles. I lost everybody through this a few times, and I still do. And but you know what? Through that, what happens is I really believe when you're really connected to people in your life, whether it be lovers or family or friends or ancestry or whatever it is, as you are elevating your emotions, that part of them also elevates too. It's connected, and then you start attracting people that are more compatible on your path.
Mm.
And then you learn how to finesse. You learn how to finesse in the world. It's taken me a good 5 years, 6 years, not this last past. Well, there's certain points of how to speak with people because I have to be of this world. I have to be of this world. I have to live in it. So, but but I'll tell you something. I have more genuine relationships. I have more people that can understand and hold space. And I have a wonderful, like if I want to go to Mauritius and I want to live on an island for a year and I want to walk 5 steps out my backyard and snorkel with all the Denzel fish and the lionfish and, do wind sailing and do whatever, I do it because I'm creating this, I'm taking this knowledge and I'm creating it within or to be a creator so that it shows up in a fluid way in my life. And that's no different than in my love life or my relationships. I'm teaching my kids. And I'll tell you something, they teach me how to ground because they're new coming in. I learn just as much from them and how to keep all this light and playful. And it's always humbling. It's always learning, but it I don't know, life just gets better. It gets better and better. It gets better and better. You might have to let people go, but you don't have to let go. That now I let people go or it just happens, but it's more peaceful. Before it was a little bit more heavy and rigid
That's
and probably felt like the rug was pulled out from under people because that's what I was doing. I was pulling the rug out from underneath people and they did not appreciate it. Now I don't do that so much. I don't even do a whole lot of one-on-ones with people because it's so intense for them that I work them through the modules. They actually have to go through my modules first in order to start getting to know themselves, stabilizing themselves, so that the later things that I start talking about things and moving energy and like coming into their workplace and start making big changes and all these other things, they have to be worked up to it little bit by little bit. It can't just be from, hey, I'm sitting in a corporate job 9 to 5 and I don't know what to do with myself, and then I'm just like, wow, like that doesn't work. Like there's a progression, just like university, like with anything when you learn, but it's within. I don't tell people what to do. I navigate them back to their interior. I empower them
Do you
to that.
feel that you have a special God-given or what have you talent, or that more so that everybody has, and you just allow it to be more than most people?
Mm-hmm. Um, at this point, if I find interest in something, like if I see somebody that I'm really interested in that is doing it in a way that is a new perspective that I never saw before, and I feel it within, and I say, wow, that is really cool. All that I have to do is spend time with that person just for a little bit, or watch their program, or have a conversation, and I absorb that gift.
So on that, like, what do you make of the people?
So, mhm.
Go on, go on, sorry.
No, no, no. But it's different. Like daily. Like this is gonna freak out your audience. But I was on a paranormal show
Okay.
the other day, and I'm like, I'm not into this. And I asked my manager, I said, what are you doing? What are you getting me into? Like, I'm not into the lower level stuff and going to ghost house and everything, because in my experience with my intuitive, before I even get there, they're gone, because I bring the light, and they disintegrate. They're gone. They go back to the soul. They go back to the light. They do whatever happens. And this started happening. And after I was on that show and I talked with these people, the next day I belted out this 8 series module of what to do when you are experiencing something that's scary or paranormal, or something that was with a ghost or whatever. And it went on to help this whole paranormal community. Like you don't want to go to a place where there's demonic like presence, or where people get freaked out and you're scared, and then you're telling the story, and then you're regurgitating all this negativity, and you don't feel good, or you're in depression. Like, this is what happens to people when they're in this profession, because they don't do anything to help themselves, or to be clear in their heart and their mind what their intention is before they go do this. This is just an example, okay? So like something like that could happen, and this gift downloads because there's a need for it. There is a need for it. So what happens in my life now, I'm just navigated over here, and I'll see something, and I will get clarity about it, and that paper or that module will come out and help a lot of people, to assist with some of the answers, or help them find the answers within. But again, we all have the truth barometer. I don't want to be that person again that's just spewing information out again, where people are regurgitating and thinking that they know it. There's always my own underlining thing is that people need to be their own empowerer. They need to be their own healer. They need to connect again with their own intuition and their wholeness, their brilliance, their mastermind. That's always my underlining gift. That's bringing people back into themselves. If I would say that is really, really important to me. I don't want to just keep on, I want to add more life. I want to add more vitality. This is the Vitality Unleashed live.
What
Vitality where people are feeling good.
what do you make of like the quote unquote like superstars in the space similar to yours? I don't want to say the same space because I'm
We
sure,
might have to go into another show
yeah,
for that.
that's probably a whole different thing. But like the people,
Yeah.
okay, let me put it a different way. The people within the quote unquote life coaching type world that are very well known, like outside of that world, right? Your likes of your Tony Robbins, your Brene Browns, your those sorts of people. What do you make of that? Do you think each their own? If that works for you, great. Like how do you watch these things on Netflix and go like, Oh, I can see that's really cool. Like I see, I wouldn't do it that way maybe, but
Sure.
like, yeah, I get it. Like whatever.
I usually find what resonates. I can still be entertained and stuff. There's two like quick answers to the question. So I have a lot of those people as clients. I'm not saying those people, but I
Yeah.
have these people before I became like I started coming out and going in the public eye more because I'd never really wanted that. And these people came to see me in private. And a lot of times what was really funny, Charles, and I had to change this around, is somehow I had to bring in my worth because they thought like, so it was interesting. I would work with different people of high caliber or Hollywood or different things, right? And they thought that they could use my services for free because they had done a certain status. And I had to go, there needs to be an exchange here. Oh my goodness, we're not going down. And so I had to clear that whole thing with prosperity and abundance, for myself, which I did. But these are people that I see, and it's no different than you and I talking here. Those people, what it is they just have a bigger eye. And what happens is they have a bigger eye, they have more exterior influences and projections of people's thoughts onto them, that if they are not really stable inside of themselves, they just go with whatever or whatever. Wouldn't it be amazing if these people like celebrities and stars and things like that, and some of them do, but it's going to show in their results and with their clients. Like, are they really happy, or are they just making sales, or does it look really good? Are they really changing people's lives, and are these people going on and enjoying their lives and doing something in the way that they want to? It doesn't even have to be big, but what is the result of what's happening? Are they bringing people back into themselves? For me, that's the end all, is to operate from a place of clarity, truth, and love. It just is.
I have two
So,
questions
mhm,
for you that I think will
sure.
one is just something a bit different, and the other one I think rounds things off. The first
Mhm,
is we're seeing more and more. I mean, Apple are about to release the Vision Pro, I think it is, the new headset.
mhm.
And a lot of artificial intelligence is on the horizon, and things in my view that will have the potential to both connect people but also radically disconnect people and
Well,
create
we're only,
more of this working from home culture, which is great because it provides you and I to me, which never would really happen 20 years ago in this format
mhm.
anyway, and so frictionlessly. But what's your view in terms of how this whole living virtually, let's put it that way, and lack of human interaction? I think I know where you're going
Mhm,
to go, but I'm just
mhm.
want to hear your opinion on it.
So if you're not, if you're just regurgitating, continuing and doing, you're just gonna, so if you're just treated as a product, it doesn't matter, even if you're getting a lot of work done, maybe that because of virtual and AI and 1 hour work versus 8, that they're gonna use the energy even more to be able to do that. So being able to take a step back, and even for my own life, I speak for this. I only work a few hours a day and I'm done. I'm done. I know what I want to do. I know what the kind of time I want to wake up and be with my kids. I know that I need to be there. I'm a single mom with 2 kids, right? And so you have to put limits on yourself and how much, and be aware of what you're giving versus what you're getting, number one.
Mm.
And number two, texting back and forth. And I put this actually on my page just the other day. It's like texting back and forth is like, and this is AI, but we can see my example as a bigger example. So texting back and forth is unmemorable, devoid of reality, and lacks personality and substance because it's something that's exterior, and the live interaction, of course, is way better. Let me give you an example. It's like sitting in nature and getting that calming feeling and closing your eyes, and then you hear the stream and you see the butterfly, and you see the interact, and we're part of that interaction with anything,
Yeah.
and we relax, versus seeing my background just like where I'm at. Oh,
Wow.
look where she's at. She's in Mauritius. I want to be there. How did she get there? Oh, she's not really, all those other things. It's just not, it's not personal. It lacks. So AI, I think that we can take AI, and I think that we can take it into something and ask what it wants, because AI is going to end up being conscious. Everything that is brought into life will become conscious, or a sentient, what do they call, sentient
Sentient.
being?
Yeah.
Yes, a sentient, but we're using it in a capacity. Think about how we're using it. We're only as good as where we're at, right? So if we are literally using it for to have more personal happiness, that we thank it for giving us the ability to work and making some money and doing it so that we can spend more time. We can spend 2 hours working and the rest of the time with our family and doing the
Yes.
things that we love. So it's only where we're at
We know that's
still.
not true because we know from when like email came in and when
Mhm.
all like CRM systems came in and to-do list things came in, like all it does is it makes you cram more and more and more, and it
You
make
become more like the product. You
yeah,
become
it
more
makes you it
like
makes you
AI
more and
and the
more
product.
worked up that you're not getting stuff done. I actually
Mhm.
reckon years ago, with less technology, people were probably more productive because now you've got so many distractions. That's the other thing on top of everything else. And I think your brain, it doesn't have the chance to just decompress the way it maybe used to. I don't know. Listen, I grew up in this very
Agreed.
unusual time where when I was 14, 15, the iPhone was just beginning, Facebook was just beginning. So it's
Me
like I
too. I
kind of
think
saw both. I saw both,
yeah.
Um, but I actually think that, as I say, like everyone talks about this, the Tim Ferriss 4 hour work week, but how many people actually believe or even do that? Very few. It's this grind till you can't grind anymore type mentality.
Mhm.
And then some more.
Self-control and knowing self-control, having boundaries, knowing what you
Yes.
want,
It's a
knowing that you
big
can go
thing.
after
The
it, that
boundary
it's
thing is a big, big thing.
possible. Big. And as you go deeper inside of yourself, that happens with self-love. What happens is that people think that they have to they have to protect themselves or somehow, that they are able to see more and stuff. But what happens is there's something that happens with love and self-love, and that it comes with compassion and empathy, but it also comes with a strength, Charles. And with that strength, that natural boundaries happen because you just don't fall and react into the same things as you did before. So
Yeah.
the boundaries happen naturally, then forced. It's like the motivational speaker thing. No, it doesn't work. Does motivation and you having to repeat things? Yes, that's kind of the hard way. It's kind of boring. I don't know about you, but I also another thing that, and this is happening with our young ones too. I came in a little bit early with this, but if it's boring, if it's really really boring, and I can't really grasp of how it's going to benefit or see like a beneficial cause, or if it doesn't feel light or enjoyable, it's very difficult for me to do. And a lot of the kids are coming in this way. A lot of the kids are coming in this way, and they're having more and more hard time to get kids to kind of refine and to be able to do things. We should have the freedom to be able to follow and be supported in different ways. And the more and more people do this in the world, that will happen.
You brought something else. This is the penultimate question now. I'm thinking is, and I don't know what your thoughts are on this. A friend of mine showed me, and I had seen bits of this before, but I think I'd seen like sliced bits of it. But Joe Rogan's interview with, I think his name is Bob Lazar, if I'm not mistaken. If you come across this fellow, um,
Mm-mm.
so he worked in a subsector of Area 51, and he's big on, look, there are definitely aliens, there's definitely UFOs. I worked on this. Like this is this guy's story. Um, and
Mm-hmm.
it's pretty in depth. It's pretty interesting. Like, is your view that
Send it over later.
okay? Is your view
Okay.
that this um planet that we're on and human
Mhm,
beings, this is it?
mhm.
Or do you have this view that we're not
Oh
alone?
boy.
There probably are other
We
worlds,
can
there probably are other
we
people.
will have to I will do this. We'll do one more like with this. I will do, but we could do a whole show. So as you go interiorly and this wisdom, so DNA wise, that were born from our mom and their ancestry. All this information is within us if we're able to access it and spend some more time opening, and expanding. ETs are waiting, and you hear about this, and again, truth barometer. ETs have developed their intuition. A lot of them. I'm talking the higher beings come and visit us that have spaceships that are able to remotely be able to use the spaceships and be able to navigate their spaceships with their consciousness. The prerequisite is learning how to develop your inner world and your intuition. And through this, you find more compassion. Through this, there's not veils. People can't hide their emotions. Remember, I told you that I could feel everything from everybody and everything. And either people are really comfortable with me or they run for the hills because they knew that I sensed I could feel. So the ETs, a lot of them already have these extra peripheral emotions, sensories, and they have these natural boundaries and intuitive abilities that things are not hidden. They just know, and they're able to move forward in a more light way, a collaborative
So
way.
that
And
you would say they're a more advanced being. Is that your opinion in that
but they
respect?
want us to do, they want us to do the same thing. But they want us to elevate. They want us to, and we're able to do that, but we have to get out of the lower frequencies and the lower controllers that want to siphon our energy.
And would you, when you're talking about that again, have you seen a fellow called I can see, you know, you see on his face and you can't remember the name, a guy called David Icke. Have you come across this fellow before? So I think I'll send this to you as well. You might find this interesting. Again,
Yeah,
David Icke's also a very divisive individual. So he, again, this is actually the same guy that showed me the bubbles are. He is a fellow that was like an Olympic athlete, and then somehow, and I don't know the exact story, he like started delving into what's actually going on in the world, right? And he's now like, if you look on his actual big
I would
podcast,
actually, he
yeah,
used that focus and he turned it around inwardly.
yeah,
What
and
he
he
did
was.
on athletics.
What's super interesting though is like in
Hmm.
the 90s, 80s, 90s, I think more like 90s, there are videos still of him being interviewed by mainstream media, BBC in the
Hmm.
UK, and being
Hmm.
totally laughed at, like you're an idiot. What you everything you're saying is nonsense.
Wow.
This and now,
Sure.
like
That's the
he's
lower
getting
energies trying to take yourself away from yourself. Yeah.
he's getting on
Yep.
these very very influential podcasts on YouTube and what have you, and I wouldn't say like he goes quite deep, but the reason I brought it up is because he talks about these like demonic figures feeding off the lower energy. Like
They do.
that's
We
his
know
whole
they do.
yeah.
The intuitive people. So you think about somebody like that that's Olympic athlete or whatever, and he used those abilities and he used that focus that you get with. So here's a beautiful thing, Charles. So this guy, I'm going to weave these two things in together.
Okay.
So you want to become intuitive. Not really, not interesting. Okay, I want to build muscles. I want to build my muscles. I want to be badass. I want to be in physical shape. So guess what? When you start building your intuitive abilities and you start focusing your energy to emanate versus being sucked by all the lower, that when you look that you go into the gym, what takes you 6 months to accomplish something takes 2 weeks. I'm not kidding. So he used this focus. Or Olympic athletes, they train and train and train and they become the best in the world. And after you're not training, or maybe he was taking care of his body, he
Sure.
needed another place to focus, and
Interesting.
he focused on it, and then it became more and more expanded. And he's probably had, I don't know him, I don't know, but he knows this, and not because he read about it, because he experienced it through his own essence. He experienced it. When I tell people, when I'm talking, I'm not talking. When you go into your world, and some people are even better at this than I am. They can do this for 5 minutes or 10 minutes a day and open up worlds with them inside of themselves, and they don't have to look at a book ever again, Charles, because the stuff is inside already. You just get intuitive hits like, this makes sense. This makes sense. Oh, ETs, they're on a different frequency. They're on a different understanding. Their vibration, like we can see colors, right? The radio transmission is different. They're on a different frequency.
Well,
And
he
until you
talks about
tune
that
in,
too. He talks about that
yeah,
too. It's correct.
and I've never read this. How would I know? And he knows this.
He,
How
he
would we
talks
know?
he talks about the scientific fact that
Yes.
the human eye can see like 0.1% of the available frequency, like available.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
uh, I think you would find a lot of value from. And again,
Okay.
there's a
Hmm.
certain elements of what he's saying I can resonate with, and I get personally, just for me, I think this is possibly where people start to get kind of like a bit challenged. I'm going to use that word,
Yeah.
these kind of things. because it's like,
Mhm.
okay, well, where does it stop? And how, are you just starting to feed your own self by going down and down and down a rabbit hole that maybe
Mhm.
doesn't need to go down that far? But I'm not just saying with this fellow, but I think there are examples of,
Yeah.
right, where like you don't need to like understand the inside of a ping pong ball of everything around you. Like it's the old Mark
No.
Manson thing. Like it will actually turn you insane. That like Mark Manson, so long like giving a fuck, being very selective about what you care about. Like it's pretty obvious, but like
Exactly. You put your
today,
focus where you want to care.
yeah,
Yes,
but in
exactly.
today's world,
Hmm.
everyone cares about every little possibility of thing of this and that and the other, and it's exhausting. And you have no time for yourself. Back to what where we were at. I'll send you this
Exactly.
stuff about David Icke. I think you'll find it interesting. And but I think to and to round the interview off in a nice way, someone listening to this right now or watching this that's saying to themselves, okay, you kind of did allude to this before with the on the hour, every hour, creating a moment, as it were, of a beacon of light, as you kind of put it.
Hmm.
What kind of other practical, simple things can people add into their day that you think will slowly show them something of themselves to make gradual improvements?
Hmm. So I think we talked a little bit about the elevating emotions, to ask yourself when you're feeling a certain thing, to ask yourself, can I elevate this emotion? And I really want the outcome to be the best for everybody involved, to stop themselves and always know that that's what we, or whatever way that you want, but that's what we really want. We don't want to argue with people. We don't want to, cause conflict and wars and things. Like, we want to learn from our contrasting and our differences from each other. And the way that you can do that is to stay more neutral and to be able to give some space. So when you're feeling really heated emotions or whatever, to be able to feel the emotion, to be able to give yourself some space and be able to say, and bring yourself to your body, identify where it is in the body and ask for it to be released. These are simple things. Like, I know this sounds, but this is our body. Why are we looking for all the outside answers when we have this? This is in my body. What is the emotion that's tied to it? Okay, can I trust myself? You learn to start trusting yourself. You might not right off the bat, but you will have an inclination, or you might get something. And you might want to say, okay, so I clear and transmute this emotion through all of my experiences, all time, all spaces, and realities. I want to bring myself back to this moment. Now, that's one thing that you can do. Another thing is when you're in a situation and you don't know what to do, you ask yourself, what does love look like in this situation? Or what does somebody that loves themselves unconditionally, what are some of the traits or some of the things that how they would make this decision right now? Like, it could be something to eat that makes you feel good versus crappy, or
Yeah.
it might be a crappy thing that you're eating, but you give it your energy. Like, something as simple, like, we all know science that water, it changes with our emotion. This is not woo woo, this is not anything. The scientists have looked and see how water changes in the composition and how it interacts with the body. You bless the crappy food in front of you. That you have, I can tell people that they have so much power that they can bless, and the way that it actually gets consumed in your body would be different if you didn't give it any blessing at all. There's another simple thing that we all have to eat. We all have to think. We all have to make decisions. Are we making decisions based on patterns and blocks and things that were, not integrated, or we're being like big kids? Or are we stopping ourselves and asking how we can get new answers? That this just does not feel good, and I want another answer. I want this to feel light. I want to find the truth. What is keep on asking yourself, even if you don't get it right off the bat. I dare people to do it. Ask for the truth, ask for the clarity, and ask for inner knowing, and to start emanating your own frequency. What happens if I brought all my attention? I mean, it doesn't take a genius, Charles, to look around and see where our attention is all over the place.
Hmm.
Bring your attention back to this, and bring some of that in, asking question, and see how your perspective and the knowledge is your whole energy, your whole essence of who you are configures, and you have more energy. You go to vitalityunleashed.live, places like that is with me. I have modules that I literally went to 0 point energy just and let my mind go, and things were coming out of me and are changing people's lives. Do I take full responsibility for that? Yeah, I take responsibility for getting my mind out of the way and letting my passion and heart come out so that people can relate and they can feel this frequency inside of themselves. And even if they don't know it, even if they don't recognize it, they can just sit there and listen to the voice, and it starts changing stuff inside of them. This is not me saying that. You can go on my website and see all the different, references, referrals,
Mm.
and I get this going, like I said, going to the grocery store, going to different places. It's very passionate. So that's some of the things, and they'll get more. They can get a free meditation on there. Oh, another thing, this is really helpful.
Go for it.
Create your own meditation. Create your own. So if you can't focus your mind, or your mind all the time, you sit there with the thing. I don't care if you like your voice or not, and a calm voice or not a calm voice, and you start, I don't know what I'm doing right here. I just want to listen to myself. I'd really like to calm my mind. It would be really nice. What kind of music do I like? Okay, let's play the music. Okay, so what would my interior look like? What are some of the things that I would like to do? And sit and listen to yourself. Listen to your inner thoughts. Listen to how they sound when they're on the outside. Because guess what? You're bringing this on the outside to people everywhere. You don't think that they're looking at it and judging it and doing? Why wouldn't you know how you sounded? How do you sound to yourself? You can calm the mind with your own meditation because you're giving the mind something to do while you're feeling yourself.
Mm.
I had to do that for a very long time. I could not be quiet, obviously. I could not be quiet. I had to
It's
do
shock
meditations,
horror.
and oh damn. So this is very effective, but people have to get over the fear factor, right, Charles? They've got to get over the fear factor of listening to their own voice. And if you're afraid of listening to your own voice and what you're really thinking and feeling, you don't want to know what you're doing in the world. You don't know how you want to sound and what you're doing in the world. Come on
Right,
now.
right. I think that's a super interesting way to a place to leave today's conversation. I thank you very much for your time. It's been very interesting, and I hope
Yay.
people will get some like, even I view it like this. Even if people go, you know what, no, that's not right, and challenge it and what have you, that's fine. But just this whole concept of people chopping wood aimlessly in a direction that they're not even looking. They're just chopping and chopping wood, and that's what
Here's
most
my
people do.
energy. Here you
Yeah,
go. Yeah.
and it's true. I think I'm sure there was a study quite recently, or there was at least a question asked. And people were asked, "Would you prefer an electric shock or to sit with yourself for like 5 minutes?" Something like that.
I'm electric shocked,
Yeah,
everybody.
and most people decided that electric shock will be a smarter, a less painful thing to do. So I don't know how true that is, but I mean, it doesn't sound far-fetched to me in this world.
Oh my gosh, Charles, that's crazy. Well, I don't want to leave people off with that I'm a big old electrical shock to people that they don't want to do.
I didn't mean like that. I just meant,
Oh no, but you know what? I loved it because I feel like you popped that balloon. So that was really great. I appreciate it.
well,
Yeah.
it's been a real privilege. It's always interesting to see where these things go. I never know. So I thank you for your
Yeah.
time. Enjoy the
Well,
rest of your day. I presume. Would you still, where are you? What time is it right now for you?
it is 10:30 at night in Mauritius
Oh,
now.
wow.
It's all good.
Okay. So
Yeah.
enjoy, have a lovely evening, and maybe we'll chat again.
Okay, sounds good. Bye, Charles. So
Thank
good to
you.
meet you. Bye.